Boru Aboye. You know, one of my core teachings is that the tree is inside the seed, right? So if you look at an orange tree that produces hundreds of thousands of oranges, all of those oranges are inside the seed. And it's just a matter of the process of transformation that the seed has to undergo in order for it to produce roots and the branches and blossoms, fruit, and all that kind of stuff, and become a fully bloomed orange tree. Okay? And that is a very perfect analogy for your personal destiny. You are the seed, and everything that you're destined to become is within that seed. Everything that you're going to become, all your potential is in that seed. And your job is to discover what kind of seed you are and where you are in the developmental process. If you can't detect or discern what kind of a seed you are, then you can't pick the proper environment and you can't properly understand the sequence of events that you need to experience in order to reach fulfillment. Imagine you're an apple tree, but you think you're an orange tree. You're going to be faced with a life of complete and utter disappointment, confusion, and that could pathologize into self-destruction. So there's a sense of reality that goes along with spiritual development. You got to know what kind of seed you are, and that comes back to your prenatal choice. Okay? That comes out of your ancestral promise, because orange trees don't produce mangoes. Apple trees do not produce persimmons. Okay? Now, the extent to which you can understand and appreciate your personal development and your personal consciousness will then give you an understanding of what is beneath your personal consciousness. What's the source of your personal consciousness? What is the pool of information, of symbols, of data, of energy that your personal consciousness draws from? That's your personal unconscious. Your personal unconscious is the one that gives the energy to your personal consciousness. Your personal unconscious generates your dreams and your intuitive understanding of things. But your personal unconscious does not give birth of itself. Your personal unconsciousness, or your personal unconscious, wells up out of the pool of collective consciousness and collective unconscious. Okay? And so when you understand and appreciate the stages of your personal development, you as the single orange seed that produces a tree, then you understand an orchard of trees, or in this case, a forest of trees, right? This whole forest represents the collective unconscious. That is a shared memory that is timeless. It goes back to the very beginning, and it generates a pattern of life and creation that is completely consistent with its initial impulse as well as the environment that it finds itself. Okay, so you cannot separate the collective unconscious from the space and time out of which it arises. Okay? This is so important because more and more our tradition is under fire, it's under attack, it's being eroded from the outside in and from the inside out. by this notion that everything is the same. There are no distinctions between different types of energies and the places that generate them. I'm going to give you a simple example. Imagine, if you will, someone says, well, Tupac, let's go even bigger, one step further. Hip hop music it's not an American thing. It's not an African American thing. It's not a black thing. Hip hop is universal. Hip hop now is speaking to the human condition. And you can look at someone like Tupac and you can say, well, Tupac is representative of a particular kind of a spirit. And you can know that his spirit is not African American by virtue of the fact that his name, Tupac Amaru, is actually the name of a Peruvian warrior. And so Tupac is a universal spirit that just happened to manifest once upon a time in California. At another time, Tupac will arise in Czechoslovakia or in New Zealand, right? And therefore, because we can anticipate that, we can conclude that Tupac is not African American. He does not have to be relegated to the African American reality. And hip hop, by extension, is also this universal process that is owned by all and just could be created by anybody at any time. That's ridiculous, right? But that's what people are saying. Oh, Orisha is not, that's not a Yoruba phenomenon. Shango is not Yoruba. Ifa is not Yoruba. These are not African realities. These are universal principles that could crop up anywhere at any time. And anybody can practice them any way that they want to, so long as they click their heels 3 times and they believe. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. It's foolishness, right? And to an extent, though, you have accepted it because you refuse to accept, to embrace, to really seek out the cultural and historical context of Orisha lifestyle, right? Your lived experience, having been brought up in Christianity or Islam, you look at religious expression in abstract terms. All those different places, the Gethsemane and Israel and, you know, those different, I don't know, place names that are in the Bible, the Garden of Eden, those are all imaginary places to you. Your religious experience is based on imagination. The characters in the Bible or in the Quran or in the Torah or what have you, those are imaginary characters. This is why people can say Jesus never existed and Moses never existed and all these people in the Bible, they never existed. And you can feel comfortable with saying that and draw some significant meaning from that because it has always been imaginary for us. But Orisha lifestyle is not that kind of a tradition. Okay? I don't want to argue whether or not the biblical characters and events are real or not. But what I want you to tell you is that the psychology, your psychology of religion is based on imaginary things. And you impose that thinking onto Orisha lifestyle, and you think that Shango is imaginary. You think that Obadala is imaginary. You think Ile-Ife is imaginary. Oyo is an imaginary. Ondo, Ketu, and all these different places are just concepts and ideas and principles, but they're not. There are people who descend from the original king of Ketu. There are people who descend from Obadala and Shango and Oshun. There are lineages alive today who can trace their family back to those divinities and those place names that you find in the sacred text of Ifa. There are people who speak Yoruba language today. There are 40 million Yorubas in West Africa alone. It's a real place. These are real things. These are real people. And their collective consciousness is as vibrant and real as this forest that I'm standing in right now. It's real, right? And so it's important for you as a practitioner to break the tradition and the habit of imaginary religion and equating all religion with Western religion, Islam, Christianity. That's not the definition of religion. That is just an example of religion. And in order for you to really get the most out of Orisha lifestyle, to really pull the essence and the power of Orisha lifestyle out and make it real for you, you got to have a cultural and civilizational, I don't know if that's such a word, civilizational. You got to have a cultural and historical context that links it into the civilization out of which it comes. All right. So I have a course, the Intro to Yoruba Spirituality, for example. It's a 1 hour, maybe 2 hour course. I think about a 40-page ebook that puts things into historical context. It gives you a look at the blueprint of Yoruba civilization and explains to you how Orisha lifestyle fits into the civilization as a whole, because that's what's going to allow you to see the tradition and the practice with the proper template, so that you can position yourself to practice it the way it ought to be practiced. Okay? And you're not talking about it and thinking of it like somebody who says, oh yeah, Tupac is just a possibility. Tupac is just a concept. Dr. King, it doesn't, we don't have to consider him a man from the South. That doesn't really matter. That could have happened anywhere. He could be from Bolivia. He could be from, Chechnya. No, that's not real. That's not true. There's a context for how these things arise. And in order for you to really fully experience it, based on the sequence of events that is preparing you for, then you got to understand that sequence. Because let me help you understand something else. When I say that the seed is the container for the whole tree, or the whole tree is in the seed, but there's a sequence of events that have to take place in order for the seed to be transformed. Orisha lifestyle not only addresses your natural impulse. There's certain things that are natural that you're going to go through because of time. But a tradition is formulated to look at, to anticipate what's going to happen. And the tradition puts things into place. It orchestrates a series of experiences so that you can create a certain experience for yourself. You can create certain values and certain understanding, right? Because the only way for you to know what you have is to test it. And the only way for you to trust who you are is to be tested. You can't just go on imagination. And so the religion, the Orisha lifestyle, it creates, it orchestrates, it contrives some specific kinds of activities that are based on this collective consciousness to make sure that you do certain things, you hit certain checkpoints, and then it will evoke certain kinds of values within you and a certain kind of understanding within you. Okay? And so that's the key. That's the key. If you're trying to activate these internal processes, but you're trying to extrapolate yourself from the context within it, that reality, then you're going to be blossoming, by analogy, you're going to be trying to blossom an orange tree in the middle of a sand desert, right? It's not going to flourish. You got to set the stage for a certain thing to happen. You can't just replicate the sequence of events anywhere you want to and any way you want to have it and expect to get the same kind of outcomes. It's very important. Context is very important. So, as I said, I have a course, the Intro to Yoruba Spirituality. It gives you that cultural context for you to create the maps within your mind and understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how you can predict the outcomes of your practice of Orisha lifestyle. Okay? You can check out the course actually at Orisha lifestyle, at obafemio.com/classes. And you're going to find you scroll down to Orisha lifestyle, to the Intro to Yoruba Spirituality. And what I'll do is I'll provide a link to it in this video, but I suggest that you start off with taking that course. If you haven't taken it yet, you should take it. No matter where you are in your journey, it'll help you to create the kind of a context for what you're doing and what you ought to do next. All right. Be well. Abora boye. Aboshishe.